to make them on.
Okay. And then the couch or the chair.
All right. Hello, everyone. So this is the super informal thing. I just, as part of the show that I did, I had the option to do some programming, and I thought it would be cool to do a talk related to the show. As you can tell by my stammering so far, I haven't prepared anything. I'm just gonna wing it because that's authentic. So basically my inspiration for this show was to do abstract portraits of friends and family members. And it centered around nonverbal communication, things that we share about ourselves with each other that we don't say out loud maybe. Attempting to capture the essence of people. And the show title is Hungry Souls because I was inspired by this quote that I read about in the art world, when you put on shows, when people come to a space and gather, the importance of not letting hungry souls go hungry away, right? That's sort of the quote. So the inspiration for the show is to get people who inspire me to come and talk about their passions. Also, we could get into things that inspire us, and we could get into, things that maybe cause hunger, different issues and difficulties that sort of inspire us to go deeper into our passions, to do things to try to help our communities and just the world around us. So I guess we could start, we could just sort of introduce ourselves, sort of say a little bit about what you do, and yeah, I'll let you decide for yourself how you'd like to go. We can just go down the line.
So I'm Lainey. I work in natural resource management and the environment, kind of. So my background is in sustainability. I'm very sustainability driven. Me and Amber actually met when I was a barista over at Milk Tooth while I was finishing up my degree. Currently, I'm the Clean Water Act Program Manager for, lo and behold, the military. So that's been an interesting kind of change of worlds. So that's kind of really driven what's going on in my life, and probably will get more into that later.
I am Amy Sawyer. I am the co-owner of an Indianapolis-based hemp company, and we got started in that because we wanted to help people to feel better and help people to understand what hemp is, what cannabis is, how it can help us heal our bodies, and to really destigmatize a beautiful plant that can change lives and help to educate the community on that.
I'm Brooke. I am a zoologist, but the past 5 years have been working in the scuba diving industry here in Indiana and in Nashville, Tennessee. I started diving in college because I had been a swimmer my whole life, and it wasn't enough to swim on top of the water. I needed to figure out how to stay under there longer. And living in Indiana, that can be kind of hard, but we figured out how to do it. I've known Amber since kindergarten or first grade, and I've enjoyed watching her do stuff she loves, and she's always encouraged me to do the stuff I love. So that's why I'm here today.
I'm Jaimeson Wright, and I actually, with Amy, co-own Rooted Scales, and it's an indie-based hemp company, like she said. However, I got into it because she inspires me and really got me into plant medicine. I wasn't always into that life, but kind of having strong women gathered around me has inspired me to become a stronger woman. And I think that I really appreciate you saying that you invited me here because I inspire you, because really my mouth dropped a little bit. I was like, what? Because Amber inspires me a lot, and really just seeing this beautiful art on the wall and seeing the people that are showing up for you, I think it means a lot to you, of course, but it means a lot to me to see it because you really are so inspiring. So thank you for having us here. Like, it's really cool.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, so So I guess we could start by sort of getting into, so it's kind of confusing, the sort of layout I had for this is very sort of technical and everything. But I guess if I talk personally about the things that cause hunger, right? That was the first topic that I was thinking of in my head. For me, I've dealt with various issues in my life. Painting has sort of helped me work through mental health issues. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety at a young age, and painting was just a form of expression that kind of helped me work through that. And it's sort of this like very visceral experience, you know, when you have emotions that are confusing and complicated that you maybe can't put words to. Sometimes it's easier just to do something, just to get that energy out of you. So that's pretty much what you're looking at around you, just with different colors and etc. But yeah, so I guess what would you say if you could articulate perhaps what drives you, what's your driving force, what led you to finding something that inspires you, what would you say that is? Does that make sense? Okay. I guess we can continue to kind of go in order because I don't know how else to do it.
Well, since we're gonna get real fast, let's go there.
Let's go.
So I thought about this a lot when Amber had first started talking about the show. We've been talking a lot about some stuff going on in life, and so I had to really sit there and think about like what drives me versus what's my passion, because I think those are very two different things. And my passion is, you know, saving the environment, saving humanity, trying to do that. But I can't say that's what drives me, because what drives you is what's fundamentally down to your core. And to be honest, what drives me is we're all gonna die. So, yeah, I had never really experienced death until about 22, when my husband's father died. And so, having a family member that was super close to you pass away, and to lose that, kind of have that hole happen in your life. Oh, someone's angry. So, have that hole happen where you see how it impacts you and how it impacts the people around you was such a new concept to me. Realizing that I would be that hole one day for someone. And that was kind of like a kind of awakening moment. It's like Amber had said, depression is such a heavy topic, and I suffer from SAD especially. So to know that every life is important to someone else, no matter if you don't think about it, it was kind of like, oh, okay, so what am I going to do with mine? Like, where am I going with this? So I started really taking this concept under my wing and being like, you know, my passion may be environmental, but what's going to drive me to the end of my days is that, hey, I'm going to die, and that's going to be it. And so I got to make sure I'm happy and, you know, have the people around me be a little happier. So I'm just going to hand that off to you. There you go.
I love how even when you don't know everything about people, like your stories still align so closely, and like there's a reason why we have a connection. So I have a very similar story. I spent my entire life having anxiety and depression at a very young age. And what drives me and what I do is that I tried hemp medicine, and it helped me to be able to manage my anxiety and my depression and my insomnia, my chronic pain without prescription medicine. And so I was like, if this works for me, I know it's working for so many other people. And there's so many other people who need this option in their life, something without side effects, something that's not going to make their body deteriorate more quickly. So when I'm super tired at work or I'm super stressed out, I think about like, I need to keep going because there are so many people who don't understand what this medicine is capable of. So that is what drives me.
Cool. Ever since I was born, I've kind of felt like out of place in Indiana, and my goal for the longest time was just to get out and move towards what I knew that I would like, which was towards the water. And so it was kind of a long journey trying to figure out how to get there, and by the time that I did figure out how to get there is when I realized that you have to start thinking about why you feel like that. And that's when I was like, maybe it's not, I need to get out of this place, I need to figure out what I want and how I can bring that to wherever I am. And so it took moving kind of 5 hours away to realize that I can do what I want anywhere. And it's so weird to think that there's this thing that feeds you, and you know where it is, and you get there and realize that you had it with you all along, and you just have to figure out what that really means. And so now that I've figured that out, I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't feel like I have to share it with other people, but I've realized that sharing it with other people makes me like it more. And so,
Sorry, I'm like trying to put all the buttons really. So I would say for me, I liked what you said, Lainey, about they're totally two separate things with passions and drives, because I would say that I definitely am, I'm really passionate about songwriting and singing and getting together on a musical level. And I think what drives me though, is probably instinctually the little girl inside of me. I have this drive for her to know that like she's okay. Like I think it is very interesting how everybody has that in common with the young depression, and there's definitely that side where at first for a long time my anger is what drove me. Like I was just so angry, but it was just like what you said. I mean, everybody's story is coming through. It's like what you said about why, you know. And I wanted to figure out why she was so angry. Like, why do you hate everybody? But why does that drive you so hard? And then with figuring that out, my why turned into like my drive is so that, you know, this little girl can know she's okay. You know, finding good friends. Realizing that the people around me weren't safe people, you know, realizing that you're worth more than that, like, and I think that's what drives me, is just every day, like, figuring out, you know what, you're worth doing something, like, more for yourself, self-care wise, than you did yesterday. Like, maybe I would eat one less cookie, I may eat 5, but I ate 4 the next day, you know, like, whatever that is. That, and that may not, that's a way lesser example, but I think that's what drives me today, and every day it might change a little bit, but that's what's been driving me lately is really just to look within and not compare myself to other people, because that's really what can like cause me to do a downward spiral. So that's what drives me.
Oh my God, yes. All of those answers like completely blew me away. Like, thank you. Okay, because I have all these thoughts now. I'm like, okay, well, where do I go from here? Because you each said things that I think were really important. I think the why is a huge point. When you think about like, why are you, maybe if you're in a difficult place, why are you there? What is it that maybe you're trying to tell yourself, or you're trying to get yourself to realize? What is it that you're maybe on a day-to-day basis when we're going through our lives, like putting on the mask when we get out of bed and going to work or whatever, like what is it that's underneath that that's like, hey, listen to me, I'm here, I've got something to say, like there's more to this than what you're doing on a daily basis. And so I guess the focus I wanted to get at with the talk is just how do you sort of go from that? How do you go from that place that starts with a? Okay, now my brain's getting going. Like, how do you answer the why? I guess how do you say, okay, there's this thing that's maybe difficult. Maybe it's like for you, you said, well, I'm going to die one day. I want to make a difference. Or, you know, I want to take care of the little girl inside. Or so how did you arrive at the answer? Does that make sense? I know it's a long for me anyway, it was a long journey or process, or finally, like, instead of ignoring this thing that I love, finally just saying, hey, you can do this every day if you really want to, like, there's no stopping you. So I guess the next question would be, how did you maybe give yourself permission to answer the question, or to work towards finding it? Does that make sense?
I have to sit on this one.
Yeah, anyone can
Yeah.
speak up. It
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it just happened, so. Or we can pause.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
I think for me, I always thought that I was I always wanted to answer that question and thought that I was so philosophical, and, I was reading lots of books and I'm gonna figure out about myself, but really I wasn't ready. And so I would say a couple of years ago, I had to hit rock bottom, like you're in like the dark nights of your soul, to where, like how you talked about with death, it's like you got to move through it because day to day comes. But I think when you realize how strong, like for me personally, I'll talk from my own personal experience, once I realized how strong I was, what I could make it through, and then that's when I was able to see, like, okay, I might be able to take this next step into figuring out why. And so some of that was through talking with close friends, but some of it was about, talking with a therapist, honestly. And really having somebody from an outer perspective who didn't necessarily know me or have any sort of anything towards me, that I could literally put everything aside and say, hey, look at all my crazy shit, like, look at this, like, look at this, and then usually they're just sitting there like, it's really not that bad, like, whatever. But it makes you, like, it made me feel so good. But then I was able to experience, like, why I did those things. And a lot of times it was my natural fight or flight experience. Like, we learn things at a young age because of usually a lift in cortisol. You go through a stressful situation, you learn how to either shut down, put up a wall. It's a defense mechanism. And because of those defenses, like, I naturally move through life, not only with a wall up, a gate closed, just everything, to where not only did I not trust other people, I didn't trust myself. So how was I going to be open and honest with myself if I didn't trust myself? So you're right, it was a long journey, and I won't get into all of it.
Yeah.
But it definitely was just finding my own truth and knowing that, like, messed up shit happens, and, like, that's okay, but it's a part of who I am, where I've been, and how I'm getting to where I'm going. Like, it's a part of that propulsion forward. And I think it's absolutely necessary. I think the people with that have gone through the craziest storms of life are usually the people that are not only the strongest, but they deeply know what their why is, because they've had to go through those dark nights of the soul. I think that's why, like, people connect with your art, because you can see, maybe it's not dark nights of the soul, but you can see the happiness. You can see, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to throw you like that, but you can feel the emotion behind it, and it's very cool. Like, it's just so awesome. But yeah, I would say that's how I got to that point, was just reaching the bottom of the bottom.
That's so
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm not sorry. This is my habit. I'm trying to quit saying sorry.
Oh, we gotta stop saying sorry.
Jeez. Okay.
Very well articulated.
So I think that for me, at least, dropping the curtains around myself that I had and all the expectations of who I was supposed to be, who I wanted to be, and who I wanted other people to see me as, and really just standing in that naked space of, like, this is actually who I am, and then training myself and teaching myself step by step to be like, it's okay, like, I don't have to be my toenails, like, yeah, my little toe is really ugly, and that's fine, and just step by step, and then asking, like Jaimeson was referring to, the little girl inside, like, what do you want to do? Like, what makes you happy? Like, let's do something for you, because she is a part of who I am as a woman and who I will be for the rest of my life, and so just allowing myself to be whatever that is. And then I find that once you're in that space of true self-acceptance, the world kind of moves around you, and the universe kind of yields to what you actually want, and you'll start to see these different opportunities that you can pick from. That's been my experience.
Sorry. Did you?
Yeah, so I kind of came to my why by collecting small moments of like what made me happy. And so I learned from a young age that we were all going to die, and I had a moment where I was obsessed with it too. And that kind of made me focus on what in life made me happy. And when I figured out like doing this made me happy, I started thinking about why. And then I just became obsessed with figuring out how to do those things all the time and make them accessible. And so I kind of did everything I could to make it the reason why I'm alive. And then along the way I realized that doing stuff you like, you meet other people that do stuff you like, and you realize you're not the only one.
Yeah.
No, you should go.
No.
I think I go back and forth on whether or not I'm still trying to figure out my why. But bottom line, I think I've come to the conclusion my why isn't for myself, it's for others. And I don't believe in astrology, but I'm told because I'm a Leo, I have this pride about me and whatever. But when I finally learned how to set that aside and be like, I don't need personally to be here to prove something to myself. I need to be here for other people in this world. And sometimes I'm really awful at it. Sometimes I'm the most blunt person ever, and I really can, I've heard somebody laugh. I can be super blunt in like the salt in the wound. But the reason I'm the salt in the wound is because somebody was the salt in the wound for me, and when I needed the salt in the wound. And I don't talk to that woman in my life anymore because we went down 2 separate paths, but it's always a woman. I'm like, it's always a woman who was like, yeah, you know, you should listen to this. And I'm like, I respect that, but not right now. I really respect it looking back. But I think my why is sometimes to be the salt in the wound, just because sometimes you need somebody there to tell you, hey, to be blunt, you're fucking up. Mm-hmm. And hey, you need to do this, you need to flip. And sometimes I need to be that person for people in my life to say, hey, you're fucking up. I really hope there's children. I'm sorry. I'm very bad with cursing. But sometimes just being there and being a progressor for other people and just trying to lift people up. I think that's why. And also maybe stop a couple wetlands from getting filled here and there. That'd be great. But I think that's what I'm figuring out is my why, is to, you know, try to be that in a nice way. Maybe some sugar in a wound, I would like to say. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm still figuring this all out though. I'm very young. I know I've lived the lives before, and I know I'm here now, but you know, still trying to figure it all out. Still.
Cool. Okay, so you brought up some cool points that actually lead to the next thing. Twofold. One is talking about doing it for other people. The other is that you're still figuring it out. I think those are two important things to tackle, but I don't know how to the order or whatever. But I think a good question is, so what responsibility do we have for each other? Like once you've gone through kind of a journey, like you say, the dark night of the soul, I like that a lot. When you feel like you've kind of gone through it, even though it's never fully over, you know, we're always learning and growing, but once you do feel like you've kind of maybe learned some stuff, what do you do with the stuff you learn? How do you share that with people? How do you share these areas that you're passionate about with other people, whether it's education or promoting positive habits or whatever? How do you do that? And we could have a moment to think.
I think that, so just by authentically being yourself, when you're out in the world, when you're communicating with the people that you love, and allowing people to come to you. I know that specifically for me, when I try to reach out to people and like explain myself or try to like, you know, you should really come over here and try this, it doesn't work out very well, especially in my personal life, because you have to wait until people are ready. And then if you set the example of living in that authenticity and living with the wisdom that you've come by, and people automatically know to go to you when they have something that is similar to what you've been through. And then you can like just sprinkle them all the love that you have and just really hold them close and, you know, give that to them. But it's like you can't give it unless somebody is actively seeking it.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is a big one. Yeah, you can't, somebody doesn't want, I've learned really fast is that when you want to be ready to fix, that's when you'll be ready. You can't force somebody to be ready to fix their mistakes or fix where they're at. Kind of, not mistakes, like everything is right where you're going, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Words. Yeah. Comedy, jitters.
That was good. I think she covered it all.
Is anyone that cute? I don't know.
Growing up, I always believed that you couldn't help other people unless you knew yourself. And I've been thinking about that a lot the past few years recently since my lifestyle has changed. Because I always prided myself on like focusing on helping other people and knowing what I like and trying to help other people figure out what they liked. And then I realized that it's not fair to expect somebody not to be able to help somebody else if they haven't helped themselves yet, because that can mean so many different things. And I'm realizing that you don't have to be a whole person to help somebody else, as long as you check yourself and kind of have yourself under some sort of control, you can help other people too. And that's been a big change of thinking for me. Sometimes you realize that you're not as whole as you think you are. You think you've fed yourself, but really you learn something new and you find out you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go? Do you want to say a little?
No, because I'll change the subject.
Okay. Okay.
But there's
I think I just I really love what you said about, about what Amy said about really wanting to be friends with everybody, and I'm nice to everyone. You know, that's a journey that I went through a couple of years ago again during that time when I was really angry. I was not, people can't believe it now. They're like, what, you weren't a nice person? It's like, I promise you, like, ask somebody that was around. I know it's hard to believe, but it's one of those things though that I do have a problem sometimes overcompensating, like, please love me, please love me. And so I think that what you said about just not seeking that out, just being okay, like, with who you are, and when you don't seek that out, you find yourself in situations that are mind-blowing, I feel, when it comes to things that you've dealt with in life, whether it was physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. There are all types of abuses, but also with depression and anxiety. I've had so many people come into my life that, and one is an example, he's a younger child, and right now I'm able to advocate for him because children don't have voices. And so I hate to keep going back to the little girl thing, but I think it's really, it's a job of education. So when that time comes that like we do have that opportunity to help somebody that, even if it's a grown person who hasn't found their voice yet, I think even when somebody's just needing a friend, I used to be terrible at, and sometimes I still am, about texting people back and calling people back. I really don't know what that person's going through. So even if they don't convey that through a phone call or a text, like maybe that's why they were reaching out, is because they see a friend in me. They weren't comfortable reaching out before, but now they're reaching out. So it's like my job to answer the phone call. It's my job to respond so that this person maybe feels love for the first time or feels a genuine peace or whatever it is, you know, within that within me. So I think that that's my responsibility, is to maybe have somebody find whatever I found in somebody else, you know, whatever they can find in me. Because I found wells of knowledge in other people. I learned that going to a dry well for water, you're always going to get mud. And so for me, I don't want to be a dry well. I want people to be able to come and, you know, say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And even if all I can do is give them a hug or a shoulder to cry on, I think that can be really powerful.
I like what you said about almost like being maybe, I've heard this phrase said before where it's like, be the person that you needed when you were going through a difficult time, which I guess is kind of what I think of. Because that's a tricky position to be in, I think, if like, because you don't want to tell somebody how to live their life, right? Like, we all have to figure it out for ourselves or else it's not going to mean anything, you know? We can't just do what somebody else tells you. So I think it's tricky. I think that's, because, I mean, I guess that's what the point of this is. It's not like, I think, I'm some sort of authority on any of this. These are just things that I think about. These are just things that I think are important, that are worth talking about, that maybe we don't talk about on a daily basis. And I think, like, this idea, I keep going over this idea of community in my head. I just keep thinking about it. Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to care for each other, you know, outside of family or significant others or whatever? Like, what does it mean to, I don't know, just to promote positive things? There's so much crap in the world. We all know this, you know, and it's so easy to just like get on your phone and get distracted by someone talking about something on the internet that's not even real, and it's like, why are we doing this? And like, so I don't know, it just felt important to try to just say something beyond the BS, basically. I think I had another point, but I don't remember what it was.
Sounds good though.
Okay, because I got stuck. Well, there's that awkward pause that I knew was going to happen at some point with this. Anyone else have any other ideas?
I think
Give me a
community is
second.
a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for a while there, I didn't have a community. Like, I come from a family that's super strong and like how we are, and so you never really looked for anything else. But you need to kind of, because even if you have like a strong family bond, there's still something that you can find in finding people else. Where, because I can tell you right now, like, you guys are all beneficial people to people's lives. And like, I can tell you from personally knowing you, we just met tonight, but I can never tell. But it's just, that's a big thing, it's community, and trying to bring people in that, you know, I've had friends for years and years and years that come in and out of my life, but, you know, there's still a big fundamental part of who I am. Not like, you know, you're not, they're kind of who made you who you are. They show you new things. Like, my friend Tatiana, she told me this really cool idea. It's imagine that you're a plot of land, and your family, because I don't know where she got this idea, I might be ripping this off or something, but she said, like, you know, your soils, your biological makeup, things you cannot change, and then what's planted is what your family plants. And so religion and ethics mean happy roots. Things like, you know, your interests and your hobbies may be like dandelions or something. So when you come into your 20s, your parents hold you this land and they say, this land is yours, do as you will. We'll be here if you need some help, but this is yours. Mm-hmm. And you look at the land and you say, okay, well, what do I like about this land? What do I want us to keep? And I don't think a lot of people do that. I don't think anybody reevaluates their land and say, hey, look, that one thing that's deeply rooted, should I have that still? Yeah. It's going to be harder to get that out. And so that was for me, was the whole, this is so cliche, but, oh, you know, I get along better with guys than I do women. And that was a big thing I had to unlearn. That's not the truth. I actually get along with, you know, them equally, but women are such a beneficial person to have in your life. They know, like, the same things you go through. They understand. Like, I've met so many great women, and bringing more women into my life was the greatest thing I've ever done, because it's, you know, it's like a little pat. You're like, oh, hey, you know, we're here for each other. Like, let's do this. But reevaluating that plot of land and kind of having community make you rethink that plot of land. Like, if something's truthful for you, it will stay, and nothing should waver that. But if it's something that's wavering, maybe rethink it. So I think that's kind of what community gives to you and what you give to community, is to remind each other, hey, you liking your plot of land? Like, you want to change some of the flowers? Do you want to add some more trees? Like, what do you want to do with this? And it's okay to redo that, because, to be honest, that plot of land's not going to look the same in 20 years. Like, you're going to evolve, you're going to change, and community's going to do that. So, I don't know, I really like that whole, like,
Yes.
idea. Yeah. It's a really cool analogy. It's like, yeah, it's got me thinking about a lot, so, I don't know. That's my community take.
I like that a lot. It's because it's so true. There's so many things that are rooted. You don't even realize that they're there half the time. It could be like years later and you're like, why am I stuck in this cycle that doesn't make any sense? Why do I keep doing the same stuff if I know it makes me feel terrible? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I still have those, you know? Like, I have a fast food addiction. I can't explain it. I don't even really like it. It's just comforting to go buy a cheeseburger sometimes. And I don't even, sometimes I get it, I don't even want it, and I'm like, I spent this money, but like, I still do it. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, because there were times in my life when, and I think it's like you get into a bad cycle or something trips you up and you're like, oh, cheeseburger might solve my problem. And you're like, no, I know it won't, but I'm still gonna go buy that cheeseburger. And like, you know, like I can't. So it's like, that's such a good point, because like, you know, and you don't even realize that that could be attached to something from your childhood that was planted forever ago. And, you know, like, man, how do you uproot it too? That's a whole conversation.
It's a whole process.
That's a whole thing. You need an arborist for that. That's a whole tree of situations.
And then like finding like with this community, right? Like, so you're an adult, you can choose the people that you're around, you can choose the things that you're doing. And so like everybody's a mirror, right? So like finding the reflections that you like in the people around you. And then you can all tie a chain around that tree and just like start to tear it down, because when you find that community, you have similar values. And so the people that you choose to be by can help you honor your own morals and ethics and what you really want to establish in your own life, I feel like. It's really so powerful.
It's huge.
That was great. I'm actually going to pass on that topic. That was really good. I do agree with you about, you know, it's a lie about getting along better with men rather than women. Like, I'm so grateful that I came to that conclusion at one point in time, because I definitely felt that for a long time. And it's like, this is a fallacy.
Yeah.
And so, proud of us for that. I was like, man, we have so many similarities. But now it's like women tribe all the way. Like, and I am finally finding those women in my life, and so it's really cool.
Where do you think that comes from?
Rooted competition.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me, it was my upbringing. I just always had guy cousins around, my brother around. My dad's friends were always around more than my mom's friends, so it was always, like I said, competitions going on, you know, and things like that. So even the neighborhood kids were all boys, so it's like we were always playing basketball or something like that, or going down to the creek and, you know, oh, I bet you're scared of this craw, Dad. And it's like, no, you know? And it was one of those things that kind of, like how you said, it's rooted deep.
Yeah.
So it really almost always goes back to childhood, like sometime before I was 7.
Yeah. Those
Like,
first 7 years.
Those first 7 years were just, they did something for me.
Yeah.
So when you're a little kid, you're in elementary school, right? It's like the girls are playing together and like the boys are playing together. But before that, like everybody's kind of playing together. So then at what point is that separation? And then I don't know about you guys, but I used to be like wanting to play with like some of the boys, and they'd be like, no, you're a girl, like get back on board with the girls. So then it's like, okay, what's wrong with being a girl? So then you look at the other girls around you, like there's something inherently wrong with you. These other members of our community don't want us to participate. This could be like way too deep. But there's something wrong with you and me. Like, so then, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of it.
So you hear that, and so it's not just about you, it's about all girls.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Maybe, yeah.
No, it makes
Maybe.
sense. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Or just immediately comparing yourself. I think that's been, and maybe that you don't do that, but I know at a young age, I immediately, because of stuff like that, it's just like, I immediately compared myself to other people, you know, especially women. So that competition we talked about, you know, it turned into a competition with women. And it's one of those things, like, why? You know, we can be in this together. We can work towards the common goal together. It doesn't have to be a competition, and it's not like that. But getting that out of your head, dude, this is a deep topic.
Amber's really happy we're going there.
Yeah,
she's
I love
like,
that.
hey,
We're going anywhere. That's all I wanted. Because, like, can't, like, say enough how I had no idea how this was going to go. It's working, I think. That's really interesting. I think that's interesting, too, when you're trying to figure out, like, who you are, kind of. I don't think I did the competition thing so much. I did the personality mirroring thing when I was like, I don't know what I want or what I like. I'll just try what all these other people are doing. And then I'd be like, I'd get into it. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I'm making friends. And then I'm like, this isn't who I am. Why the hell am I wasting my time on this? Like, and it, I don't know. I mean, I guess you kind of have to go through things like that to say, oh, this isn't for me. Like, this is not what I want. This is not what I need. To figure out where you do need to be. It's so tricky. It's so tricky.
I love that you say that, because I've always gotten frustrated when people say they don't know what they want to do. And I'm like, you only have so much time, you just try something. If you don't like it, you try something else. And if you don't like that, you try something else. And you're just, as long as you're doing something and you're learning whether you like it or not. That's how I got to where I am. There aren't many girl scuba divers in the industry, and I'm happy I got there. And I think it helped growing up with a twin brother. I realized that he was a boy, and that didn't mean that he could do stuff that I couldn't do. We were at the same age and growing up together, and we just challenged each other and liked some things and didn't like some things.
Being a girl, sometimes it's one of the coolest things. I should say being a woman, because there's a guy at work who calls us girls, and it's just one of those things that's like, oh, man, come on, we're the same pay grade, do not call me a girl. Like, you know that.
Yeah, I
And
absolutely know.
But it's kind of one of the coolest things, and kind of also one of the weirdest things in general is I'm a woman in environmental, and, you know, white women are the majority environmental, and that's something I have to keep in my mind consistently. But I also work for the military, which is a bunch of like older gentlemen who have these habits that they've learned over time that they don't want to unlearn. And so I'll go into a meeting where I'm the subject matter expert of, hey, this project, you need to be doing this, this, and this. And they'll turn to a seasonal I brought, which is a gentleman. And I'm like, I'm the boss here, like, come here. And it's like, so that kind of competition still like is one of those things, but instead I've learned that in community now it's about lifting up the other women too, because we're all kind of dealing with that thing. It's like, it's don't tear off the other woman's crown, try to fix it, help her fix it. And so I think that's a huge thing, is like, we'll probably all kind of see that in some form still, is that there's that underlying, you know, so we still have to be competing to prove ourselves when we already got the job, or we're already there. Why are we still having to prove ourselves? And it's just those little undermining things that you can't point out without somebody being like, well, you're being dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah. You got the job, what are you complaining
Yeah,
about?
what are you complaining about? Like, why are you bringing this up? That's so dramatic. Like, why are you starting to start drama? I'm like, well, no, like, this gentleman keeps ignoring me in the meetings. And I'm the person there for him, and he's looking at this other guy who's not even relevant to this conversation. And I get mixed up for other women in meetings that don't even look like me, because I'm just another woman to them. And I'm just like, okay, this is an interesting concept. So it's like, competition follows you, but it's like, I'm trying to learn the balance personally of like, you know, what drives with competition, what's good competition to push you, and what's bad competition that tears you down. So, that's interesting.
Also, what is it about calling someone dramatic? Like, that's so unnecessary. What's wrong with feeling emotion? Like, isn't that a big part of this thing? Isn't that how we figure stuff out? We feel things and we respond to those emotions? I think that's so weird. Like, when you have to like pretend that you're not feeling a given emotion in a given situation because it's inappropriate. Like, why is that? I don't know. That's just always something that's bothered me. We should give ourselves and each other permission to feel things, because we're going to anyway, whether we ignore those emotions or not. They're still there, you know what I mean? So, I don't know.
No, that's right.
It's funny because we'll say this really deep, profound thing, but then we'll come back and be like, I'm sorry, or, kind of discount it, and it's like, no, that, like you're saying, is feel that deep, like, say that thing, because, if you're feeling it, somebody else in the room should probably also feeling it. Yeah. Which we're learning really fast, that everyone's feeling something here.
It's that authenticity thing again. Yeah, that's how we teach each other, is just by being ourselves. But for some reason we're taught to not be ourselves. It doesn't make any sense. We're taught to fit into a box instead of just existing.
Yeah, we haven't been taught to, and we're coming to as a society learning how to, but like truly standing in your truth and like standing there for everybody to see, and not being afraid of what other people think about it. And then when people do come to you, like, you're being dramatic, like, okay, that's your right to feel that way, just as it's my right to feel what I'm feeling. But we are taught to hold these things inside of us because of this like assumed repercussion of like, well, if I'm too dramatic, then that means I'm not responsible, or I can't handle my job, or like people think I'm gonna flat the handle. And those are all false beliefs that are just perpetuated by this system of not being transparent. Like, unfortunately, a lot of our society is based on like shadows, and some of it is based on shadows and lies, and people are comfortable there. Well, people that want to suppress others are comfortable there, and they want you to be comfortable there too. So,
Yeah, that's true.
I just watched it. I honestly just watched a conspiracy theory.
You say conspiracy theory, but that does make sense. If there is a certain way you're supposed to feel in a given situation, it is easier to control people, because if you're outside of that diagnosed idea or system or whatever, then something's wrong with you, shun that person.
Yeah.
It's another word like dramatic, right?
Yeah, it's
They
another
call it a
way.
theory,
Yeah.
right? It's just a theory.
Yeah.
Theories are theories are theories. And tacking a line on the front of it is just like saying that somebody's dramatic.
Yeah.
No, somebody has emotion. So if somebody has a different theory, then they actually just have a different theory. And so, yeah,
It's an idea.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's, again, how people say, oh, this person isn't in the box, so we're going to put them out here, we're going to put a spotlight on them, we're going to throw fruit at them. You know what I mean? And that's how they do that. It's like,
And then it's group mentality. Everybody's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I've got fruit too, let's throw. And it's like,
Right.
no, why are you doing this?
Absolutely.
Eat your
You don't have to
fruit.
be a conspiracy theorist, you can just be a theorist. You can just
Yeah.
believe in something.
That's why it's important not just to say how you feel for the person that feels the same way as you, but so that people that don't or have never thought that way before realize that other people feel that.
That's such an interesting topic, because it's like, with social media, and I always hate that when people are like, oh, but the social media is your journey. No, but like, social media is great for discussion, but sometimes it's also you putting yourself, a lot of people are afraid to put themselves up on that board and say, they're worried about the perception that they're not done. Like, if I come out and I say corporations are inherently evil because they have an environmental cost, and I won't say that to everyone, because everybody's going to be like, well, this eco-warrior, I'm just going to ignore her now. And that's genuinely how I feel, is like, I think corporations are inherently evil because of environmental costs. But you can't have that authentic talking about yourself. So you'll see, like, I write Instagram posts that are based around, I haven't done it in a bit, but I need to, Indiana environmental issues. but they're super toned down and super palatable by everyone. When in all actuality, I sometimes want to shake people and be like, hey, you know, we're all gonna die, so you should probably start doing some stuff. But it's kind of, yeah. I'm just focused on death tonight.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Death immunity, stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's a huge thing. It's like being worried about that fruit that may come your way. And that's why a lot of people aren't willing to have discussion, is they're kind of more scared that they're going to be attacked for an idea. And you know, I'm not saying all ideas are good ideas. There are some very, very bad ideas out there in history and in all general, but it's kind of an interesting dialogue of how we have to tailor our stuff to make us more palatable as humans.
Well, then you brought up environmental too. I guess if you guys, I didn't really know if you wanted to get into talking more specifically about your interests, if you had anything to say about it. I know it's very vague, but I do think part of why I asked you guys here is because I do think what you do is interesting and is worth talking about. So if you would like to share.
Just want to go first? You go first?
Oh, is it down here?
Yeah.
Right now my interests, like I said, I do own an indie-based hemp wellness company, Root Scales, and that's definitely an interest of mine right now. Heavily, it's been really awesome to teach people about plant medicine and be a part of this, and really to be a women-owned company, and to I've always supported indie local businesses, so to be a local business has been really cool. And to see the support in that way, to experience community in that way has definitely helped me to actually start to want to dig in roots. You know, I feel the bond as opposed to just looking at it and admiring it. And that's been pretty cool. I'll let Amy talk a little bit about the farming side. Or maybe whatever I don't know, sorry. I'm used to doing other stuff, sorry. It's weird not having you to like throw things off of. Usually when we're doing talks, we stand next to each other and I'm like, all right. But for me right now, a huge interest of mine is songwriting. I mentioned that earlier. And writing music, writing songs. Really any lyrics. It doesn't necessarily have to be a song. It can be a poem, but really getting back into that. I think that what we talked about earlier with going through the times that I needed to go through in order to find my why. I had really put off songwriting for a while. I just hated it, honestly. Like, went from loving it, writing songs since I was very young, to like absolutely just, I'm so good on this, you know what I mean? If I hear one more rhyming word, I'm going to go through the roof. But then it was just interesting, like realistically, the more that I've gotten involved with the community, with finding my tribe, with having strong women around me, with being a part of Rooted Scales, music has come back to me. So that's been really cool. What's even cooler is it seems as though when something is supposed to happen and you're on the right frequency of that happening, things just fall into play. Like how you were talking about, not only just mirroring, but it's almost like a solar system, and you're the sun, you know. You start to have these things gravitating around you, and you start to really bring in what you're wanting. And all of a sudden, there are these musicians around me, or people that have been my friends for a while, that are saying like, "Oh, I do this and I do this." It's like, what, dude? Where have you been? You know, I thought you knew about this, and it's like, no, actually, I knew that you like to sing, but I didn't know that you wrote music like this, or I didn't know that you wanted to produce like this. So, and again, it's not just been that opportunity; it's the other opportunities like that solar system. So like Rooted Scales is a planet, you know, my friends are a planet, my family is a planet, and then my music is a planet, and it's all these things coming together to create this this galaxy that is like the Jaimeson galaxy, and it's not centered around me in a selfish way. Like the sun gives back, right? Like the sun gives you light. Like I'm giving into those planets as well. And so with that, it's just this thriving atmosphere, and I think that right now that's like where my interest level is at, is having it at top of mind. You know, I always have my notebook with me, ready to write down different things that inspire me. What, you know, and I might have 5 different pages of things that are notes or whatever, and that may just be a bridge. You know, and learning that that's okay. I used to be very forceful with myself about, you're gonna write a song, and it's gonna be in the next hour, and you're gonna do it, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, really? Because that was my upbringing, right? That was how I was taught to do things, was like, you're gonna get this done, it's gonna be in a timely manner, and if it's not done in that time, you're in trouble. But why is that the way that I live my life? You know, and so now, letting things happen, come to fruition just out of maybe a small thing, letting it go, writing something down and letting it go. And then all of a sudden something will hit me, and it's like, dude, there it is, you know. It happens with rooted scales too. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's what you're asking. I really have no idea, but that's what I'm interested in right now. It's just writing music and rooted scales probably, so.
Do you want to go?
I'm looking at you.
Are we going in order?
I don't know. We're all staring.
So my big thing has always been find something that you love and keep doing it. And recently, I moved back to Indiana from Nashville, where I ran my own dive shop over there for people that used to run their own, and then they got out of it, but they wanted access to scuba still, but they wanted somebody else to be in charge of it. And so I lived there for 3 years and kind of ran the business and helped spread the word about scuba diving, and got to dive a whole lot. And then I moved back home and I got married, which has been great. But recently I've gotten sick and haven't been able to scuba dive. And so that was kind of hard because there's something that you finally found that you really like doing. And so I've kind of had to figure out how to still do this thing I love without doing it. And so I've been focusing a lot on kind of talking about scuba diving to other people, not just students in our class, but just kind of getting the word out there that you can do things that you want to do in unlikely places. Our shop's been in Muncie, Indiana since 1971, which is weird. Ball State was actually the first college in the nation to have an aquatics degree, which is kind of cool because we're very landlocked. And you can actually minor in scuba diving, and now it's a major. And so that's how I kind of got started, was because I was at Ball State for learning about animals and the environment, and then realized I could learn to scuba dive and learn about the environment underwater. And then ever since I figured that out, I've just been spreading the word. But I've learned that just because things don't work out the way you think they will once you've gotten into the thing you love, doesn't mean that you have to give up on everything completely. And when you talk about, do you have a responsibility to feed other people, I don't like the word responsible because that makes it seem like something that you have to do. To me, it's not a responsibility, it's something that kind of I like doing. And when you say that you have to do it, it kind of takes it away a little bit from you. And so just talking about what I like to do is kind of helps spread it a little bit. And so that's my big thing, is don't get stuck so hard on where you are. Kind of think about what you want to do, and then wherever you are, make it happen. So,
Do you like to write?
yeah, I do actually. I haven't written in a long time, but I used to love writing, yeah.
That's awesome. So something that I have found fairly recently is that kind of like what you were talking about with like find out what you want to do and then figure out how to do it. So because of my past with a lot of anxiety and depression, I'm like, figure out how you want to feel and then get yourself there. So like, I'm having a rough day, I am having these like stressful feelings or depression, and like I know that I want to feel happy. So what can I do in this like instant to make myself feel happy? And that might mean that I'm like shutting off responsibility in other areas, but I know that if I'm not where I need to be vibrationally, emotionally, then everything else that I do that day is not going to have the power that it would if I were in that high vibe place. And also just moving through life, because of my experience with depression, I know that we're all like these little balls of light that are like moving around each other, right? And so the brighter that you are shining, it's almost like you're affecting the people around you as well and adding to their light. So when I walk out the door, I want to be in the highest place that I can be so that I can affect other people the way they need to. Like, if I'm in a bad mood and I'm feeling super psycho and I'm on the road and I'm like, what? Do you ever like drive past somebody that's like driving slow and like give them like the death stare as you're driving past them? Like, yeah. Like, that's not a high vibe place to be. Like, leave that older lady alone. It's fine. So, I'm just making sure that I'm where the best that I can possibly be so that I'm giving to the world instead of just like sucking it dry, you know,
Yes.
and being that energy vampire.
That's huge. It's not even my turn to talk. That's huge. Oh man, I could talk for hours about that one. That's like a personal. I know you don't like the word responsibility, but that I think we do have a personal responsibility at a certain point, like how we affect each other. Like we have to be conscious of that. Good and bad. You know what I mean? Like on the one hand, yes, you have a right to feel the way you feel, and emotions are huge. But on the other hand, maybe just don't go to that thing that day if you can. Just hang out and take care of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's just about like taking care of yourself.
Yes.
It's not about like shucking off what you said you're going to do.
Yes.
It's about making sure that you are where you want to be and you're showing up the way that you want to show up. You know?
Yeah.
Yes. It's self-responsibility.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, there's like a fine line there too. It's like you'll push yourself over that line way too much.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. I guess I should get into that. Okay. So like I said, I work with the environment and sustainability, and it's commonly known to have a lot of burnout. We talked about it a lot in school as sustainability burnout. You're fighting against the wall. You're like punching the wall sometimes. So I work for a job that I would prefer not to work for because I'm doing, like I'm from a military background, my parents are military, so I have a lot of respect for the military. But I also love and enjoy the earth, and I like having the earth be itself, because the natural cycle, in my opinion, is not something we should be messing with. Because it's like a pendulum. You're swinging a pendulum and you knock it, it starts doing an oval. And an oval is showing extremes rather than a nice little circle where it's nice and balanced. And when you get that pendulum swing with the ovals and those extremes, that's where humanity in the middle starts getting choked out and getting knocked over by that pendulum. And so I'm stuck here where I understand humans want to progress in a passionate way towards their stuff, but at the same time, I'm passionate about humans. I want to make sure that we're okay one day. So that's been really interesting because I'll be honest, when working for the government, I saw a lot of people who were affected by the government shutdown. And seeing that firsthand was, I didn't really talk about it, but it was like kind of an eye-opening experience because not only did I see people who were affected, but I saw like national parks that were just destroyed, like right before my eyes. And I was just like, and there's nothing we can do because, you know, government employees couldn't step in. They didn't have any grounds. And I got so frustrated, and kind of goes into the point of, what can I do now? And so I remember I just kind of started writing things at work. And I had my friends tell me I'm a mix between Ann Perkins and Leslie Knope. And I'll tell you, it's the difference between coffee. I'm Leslie Knope and I have coffee and I will like fight the world and I'll go after people, and then I'm Ann Perkins when I have not had a single drop. And so when my Leslie Knope is on, I will write these long really, I try to research them to the best of my ability, spend about 3 hours on a post saying, like, what can I give to you guys to say, this is how you can help? Because sometimes people feel like they can't do much. And that's, you know, some people, like, that I have in my life have gone to the extremes of changing their life and going and pursuing sustainability. And I'm so inspired by those people. And, but at the same time, it's like, there's still people here that need to be educated. You have to start where we live in a red state with a blue city. And so we have to start here. We're so behind with CAFOs that you can be so screwed over in Indiana by agricultural land. Like, CAFOs can be 40 feet away from a school. And Indiana is the one state that is actually kind of screwed over the most. CAFO is a agricultural land of like mass production of animals. The reason that's a problem is because you know, the offset, the drainage and stuff is usually really harmful. And so you have the nearby schools and nearby people's houses. And so there's not as good as regulations as it should be, like Illinois, Michigan, Tennessee, Ohio. We have so much better regulations than we do. And so I've learned really fast is that to start that wheel turning for a lot of people, it's education and trying to inform people of what they can do in their home state. And you know, that sometimes I have to hold back my radical side and like just try to get the little wheels turning for certain people. And just sometimes it's as easy as, hey, just, you know, recycle, or you can switch. By the way, if you didn't know, IPL has this thing that you can switch over to try to have your house powered by all green energy. It's 0.001 on the dollar, and it's super cheap. And even if you're not having it completely green powered, it's showing that there's a demand. And like Duke Energy is putting more and more solar panels in, and we're going somewhere environmentally. It's just you have to start where your feet are, and I think that was a big thing. Is starting and trying to change where you're at and knowing that you can make something happen. So my passion is environmental, and I want to see more people passionate about it too, because that's our livelihood. It's who we are. We are a part of this, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of it. This is for the people prior to us and people post us. We can't be selfish anymore. So I'll get off that soapbox.
That's so fun.
Yeah, I'm very passionate.
Awesome. Oh, right. Okay. Well, okay. Okay. So I guess for me it's weirder because it's a person. It's the thing I do is very selfish. It's a very selfish act. There's no way around it. Which is why things like this I think are helpful to try to take it beyond me. But this is, you're looking at me taking care of myself and healing myself. You're looking at me expressing things I don't have words for. You're looking at, I just think self-expression is so huge. I don't, like, it doesn't matter what your passion is or what you do, I just think you gotta find a way to get the crap that's in you out of you. And that's just really huge. And so for me, I guess you could call it like art therapy. It's, you know, and it's just fun. I just like to play with paint and throw it around, as you can tell. I don't know. I didn't really prepare anything. I mostly just wanted to listen to you guys talk. And I think that's worked out pretty well. But yeah, I don't know. It's like we've dabbled about. It's like we're gonna die anyway, so we might as well just have a little fun. And this is my fun. And I just appreciate that people are interested to come or care to come, and I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate you sharing all of your bits of information. If I could have everyone that I know and love up here talking with me, because I think everyone I know and love is incredible and has something to say. But some people I know don't like to talk in front of people, and other people didn't answer my question. So that's what it is. Like, there's no pressure. I get it, you know, so, yeah, but thanks for being here. I thought this was pretty fun, even if it was a little bit selfish. So, it's only 8:20. Does anyone have anything else to say? Does anyone have any questions, maybe? Should we do that?
Yeah.
I don't know, okay.
Well, first of all, thank you all. I know you all talked a lot about portions of purpose and reasons for being responsible, or authentic ways to relate your soul and your community and things like that, whether it's as like a star or as a healer or as an instructor and whatnot. And it kind of went through everything that I was going to ask, whether it was like an unstated offer, like a call to action, or but I'm still kind of curious. Your future plans, it sounds like a lot of you kind of are happy with the direction that you're going right now and kind of see yourself moving in that direction. And some of you maybe not so much. Some of you touched on like ways that you recharge, like what your soul eats when you're the hungriest, I guess. Kind of like it's easy to see leisure as like the flip side of labor a lot of times, whether that's an authentic relationship or not. Where do you see yourself going, or some of you answered that question, and some of you maybe didn't answer how you recharge. So it's kind of. I say that well. I'll try
No,
to.
yeah. We were just debating in our minds, telepathy-wise, who was gonna go first.
We're all synced up right now.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I have a question about your question. You're asking about recharging, and you're asking about future? Is that correct?
Yeah, because you said,
Okay.
fast food is overwhelming. I'm really curious about the direction of your future art.
Will you
Stop eating fast food.
Will I stop? I think at some point you just have to realize some of your bad habits are just gonna stick around. Like maybe you can get better at it, and I don't have to have a cheeseburger every day, which I don't do anymore, which is great. But there was a time. But you know what I mean? You can't beat yourself up over every little thing, or else you're just gonna wear yourself out for no reason. As far as recharging, I'm an extremely introverted person, which is why these people are here, because traditionally this would be like an artist talk, and I didn't want to do that because it freaks me out. So these very kind people came and talked with me. So for me, recharging is really just kind of being by myself. You know what I mean? Just taking a break. I think life is exhausting, and I love all the people in my life, but I need a break from them sometimes. I need to just take a nap, or do some yoga, or sit on my couch and not do a damn thing, So that's how I recharge, I guess, and painting. And then as far as future, I just want to keep making stuff and hopefully have a place to show it, or share it, or a way to share it. Maybe doing more stuff like this. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this before. And it's been really fun. So maybe this idea can evolve over time and become something else. So I hope that answers your question. Okay.
I think for me, I'm a big planner. I learned that so hard about myself, because I like to plan the next step. And so I'm always talking to my husband, his name's Mike, and he's actually in here. Hi, Mike. I'm always coming up to him, and I'm like, all right, so let's move here, and let's move here, and let's do this, let's go there. And always kind of trying to find the next job. But I think I'm finding out that education, and talking about the little girl, finding out that children are super fucking cool, and they're the future. I know that you hear presidents saying it's the kids are the future, but no, kids understand. Deep down, they understand more than we do, because we get so trapped in making bills and stuff. And little kids are no, yeah, I like those animals, or I like to do that, or I like to be outside. And I'm yeah, you get it, man. Cool. Thanks, little dude. So I originally wanted to be a park ranger for so long, and I think I'm going to pursue that next. Interpreted park rangers, working with children, telling children and people, and older ladies and gentlemen and people of all ages, like, who want to know about why these resources are important and why we need to, and protecting those, and showing that beautiful nature and the scenery to everybody. I think that's my next step. That means, I think, leaving Indiana because national parks aren't around here. So that's one of those sad things, because I have a lot of really great people here that I do not want to leave, but I think spreading that wealth and recharging for me, it used to be video games, to be blunt. I went to school for 4 years and worked for 4 years full time, so anytime I could haul out. Right now I'm playing like Magic the Gathering with my husband and playing those kind of games, and also a lot of Mario Kart. But at the same time, it's the 60-degree weather and being outside and being like around club moss and stuff like that was like an amazing experience, and realizing, holy shit, I needed that. I'm really sorry if anybody gets offended by cursing. I'm very bad about that. But I'm very bad. Like, I curse in a Catholic church if I could. But yeah, no. I think also Amber talks about this a lot, is you're always evolving, so figuring out what recharges you is a consistent thing. Like, you might find something out of nowhere and you're like, I feel pretty freaking good about that. See, I caught myself that time. So, yeah, before I ramble, there you go.
So, not to be inappropriate, but I definitely want you to like come with root skills as our like environmental person, at least for a little bit before you leave the state. I heard Jaimeson tell me that it was okay to say that. Please do that. So to recharge, like you just said, it's like an evolving thing. But just, so I used to be the kind of person that like, yeah, like you, like I'm shutting it down, I'm gonna like be on the couch, but I would spend so much time like in that place of guilt of like what I should be doing that like it was not restful at all for me. But now I can be in that space and like I let that go. So yeah, just whatever I feel like is going to like give me that. Whether and just allowing myself to do it, you know, if it's like, I'm gonna go visit my mom for the day, knowing that she won't let me leave for like hours and hours and hours, or you know, just walking around or like going to a coffee shop and just sitting and doing absolutely nothing, and but whatever it is, just allowing myself to do it and being okay with like doing that, and then for next steps, just continuing to figure out what makes me happy. I love rooted skills, and it's so important, I feel like, in the community and in the political environment right now. But I know that it's just a thing and it's not what I am. So continuing to like figure out what I am and what my place is in this community and in our society, that's just going to be like my continuous thing that I'm going to be doing.
Thinking about the idea of recharging is a new thing for me. I feel like I've been going at full power the past 28 years. And I think this past year I've been kind of forced to stop and start recharging. And so for me, I feel like I'm still in the middle of it, trying to figure out what to do next. But I'm enjoying it, which is what I've always found is the most important thing. But there's so many different sides to the scuba industry that I'm learning about that I didn't know before. I work at a dive shop and I sell scuba gear and teach scuba classes, but we also own 2 scuba agencies that are international. And if you go to a scuba convention, you'll notice that everybody in the room is in their 60s and they're all old, and not many of them actually dive anymore. So the past few years, since I haven't been able to dive as much, I've started thinking about how I can kind of get more people excited about it and kind of think of a more technical way to keep scuba around forever. Because with the changes in the environment, if you don't raise a good scuba diver, the oceans aren't going to be there anymore. And there's so many different agencies out there, and when you're learning to dive, you don't even know what the agency stands for because you're just kind of learning at a new level. And so my passion has become trying to figure out how to make sure that everybody is learning how to scuba dive in a safe way. And so working with the agencies has become exciting because you can kind of get in at the ground level. And yeah, you think about the environment and scuba diving and how it's fun to be under the water, but there's so much stuff that goes into doing that responsibly. So the fun is what gets you in there, but learning about how you can give back and make this cool thing last forever has kind of become my thing. And I think that's important because when you find something cool, you want it to be around for as long as possible. So sometimes having something crazy happen to make you recharge is good. So, yeah.
Okay, recharging in future. I would say there is a part of me, I don't know if I'm actually working on it, that's always a little dissatisfied. So when you said that about it seems, so if I seem that way, that's cool. It may not have been me though. But there is a part of me that wants to be, I'm satisfied in the moment. I'm satisfied with the day. But when it comes to looking into the future, sometimes I don't even really want to look at it because I'm not there yet. And it just seems like the more that I try to plan it, the more that I just get off course. It's pretty wild. And so for me, recharging kind of helps me to realize that what's going to happen is going to happen. And so I try to really just concentrate on today and possibly tomorrow, maybe if it's late enough in the night. But really I'm just trying to concentrate on today because I get into that dissatisfaction of like, man, I really haven't done enough. I'm not doing this, this, and this, and this. And those things may very well be in my future, they may not, because it seems as though I do find different passions, even with singing and songwriting, with rooted scales, with all those planets I talked about. I find different passions within them. And so really to pigeonhole myself into my plans and telling people about my plans, you know, even if I have plans for the future for myself, something my grandfather always taught me is 3 things to keep to myself is my finances, my love life, and my next step. And that's because sometimes I say these grandiose ideas because it feels good to say. And then when it doesn't happen, I'm mad at myself and I'm breaking myself down because I didn't do these things that I told everyone else I was going to do. But it's like, well, why didn't you just do it for yourself? Because I was really just more wrapped up in getting that love from other people because of the plans that I was drawing up. And so learning to do things maybe a little differently, and so not so much concentrating on my failures or my future, but concentrating on today. So I think recharging for me has definitely changed its ways. I used to not be a big bath person, but recently I've been taking baths and it's been good, you know. I'm sorry to tell you about my shower life, but it's been good, you know. I enjoy soaking in the tub, you know. I enjoy maybe getting a little frilly with a candle or two, and I think that's nice, you know. But also learning when, even though I seem like an extroverted person, I'm actually very introverted, and people really drain me. Even the people I love so much, I love them so much. I love so many people, but it drains me. And I think learning something that has really taught me how to recharge is learning how to tell people I'm recharging, and giving myself the proper respect to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to text you back, or I'm doing this because, or I'm taking the day because, or whatever it is, you know, I'm doing this, especially with my fiance, a lot of times, you know what I mean, he wants to hang out, and he needs that, and sometimes I do have to say, like, I'm so sorry, but I'm not, you know, I need this time, and he understands that, and that's what's so cool, is giving other people the chance, even if people get mad, whatever, you know, whatever, that you're not my friend, you're not my friend. If you can't take me recharging, then we're not friends. That's fine. You're going to get a dead phone, right? If you don't recharge, you're going to have a dead phone. And so So with that, when you find those people that literally, when you tell them your truth and you say, hey, I'm recharging, and they say, respect that, I'll take the other room, you know? Those are the people I want to be around, because that makes the day-to-day worth it. It's hard for me to see long-term, but I know that if in the day-to-day I'm good, then my future is looking okay. So that's what I've got.
I really like it. I think that's huge. Being able to communicate boundaries, huge and hard.
So hard, dude. It's the hardest.
I've heard baths are a sustainable way to scuba dive in Indiana.
Oh, yes, thank you. That's good.
I like that one.
That's awesome. That's good.
I'm really gonna take that home with me. That is, I respect when somebody is willing to say, hey, I need this moment right now. And like, you are exactly like that too, because I will hit you up and you'll be like, I'm like, okay, cool. But like, I've respected that, and I'm the worst when it comes to being like, honestly, I make up excuses all the time. I'm like, my friend Micaiah is here tonight, and I'm going to admit a fault. I went to a doctor's appointment and then napped for like 2 hours afterwards. And I texted her and I was like, I'm in a doctor's appointment. Like, that's what I did. And I was like, but I would just like come home from that and I needed that nap rather than just saying, hey, I need to recharge for a second. Like, I need to sleep. I need to do this. And so.
And you drain yourself.
Yeah.
I'll hang out with her for like 2 hours in the morning. She's like, and then I'm gonna go see this person, and then this person after that, and then at night I'm gonna go home and hang out with my husband. And I'm like, you're gonna hang out with like 4 people in one day separately, not like all together, but like separately, which is a lot. Because it's the constant communication over and over and over and over again, rather than just communicating like all in a group like this.
My dirty laundry's out there.
It feels good.
It does feel good. Dirty laundry needs to get out. It's like, why hold on to that? It's too gross and heavy. Wash that shit. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say. Yeah.
Do you want other people to maybe like share their, like,
Sure.
what drives
Why
them,
not?
what they're passionate
Yeah,
about,
that'd be
if
fun.
they
Like,
would,
if
what
you'd
they
like
can
to.
recharge with.
Yeah. It's totally optional, but you know,
I have a
whatever you
question.
feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I went first. You guys, I'm a little bit sick, so my voice is a little crackly. You guys all like individually talked about community, especially you were saying like, yeah, I used to try all these different things and I realized like that wasn't really me. None of you really sort of talked about like what a community is, like what that looks like, because that word is tossed around all the time and used for good or for evil or whatever that means. And so I'm wondering like what community means to all of you individually, and how you identify a positive community versus like a negative community. Like this all is a community. I guess I'm trying to say like, how do you identify like a community like this one versus like, oh, the Proud Boys, you know? So none of that.
Community is definitely, I'm with you, it's definitely not an overused word, but it's definitely to each his own. You know, I think that we can have community events like this, but for me, sometimes my community, I'm not tapped into it. And so for me, my community is my friends, my family, but also my community is just my fellow neighbor. The people I come across every day, they may not be in my immediate community, but I think the people that are even just live in my neighborhood, you know. But I think that when it comes to the community, man, this is a tough question.
It's a very hard question.
Yeah, and that's a good question though, because for me, yeah, it's friends, it's family. But right, how do you define a friend? Because so many times I put myself into community, right? I love to isolate. It's one of my favorite things to do. And when I isolate from community, I literally can feel it. I start to feel alone. I start to feel sad. And I literally tell myself that I don't want to come to things like this. I seriously say, you know what, I'm so good. Amber, I love you, but I'm good on this.
I almost did that. I was like, I wanted to.
And I wanted to it's the,
Yeah.
but at the other end of it, I also crave it. You know, I crave even just being in the audience of something, of going to a chat or going to a concert, whatever that is. And then at the end of the night, I feel, oh wow, even though I'm a little drained, I do have community. And I do have people that I'll talk with some of you after this, you know what I mean? And to me, that is friendship. Like, to me, we may not be friends yet, you know, yet. However, there is that possibility, there's that potentiality in community to have friendship, to have friends. And I don't think it's about how many friends you have. I think it's about the quality of the relationship. And I think if you're not in a community, or at least setting yourself up in a community, then it's hard to find that gravitational pull to who you are going to commune with or who you're going to be friends with. And this is how we find like-minded people, is finding an event that either you want to support Amber, or you want to support the arts, or you want to support good music, a local business. When you go to those types of events, then you find a community of people that have a like-minded stature of mind. And when you do that, then that's, to me, where I found the best of friends and where I found my community. So I would say my community is ever-changing at this moment, and that sounds really vague, but I have that inner community that is the friends and family that I've known for so long, but I want it to grow. And again, it may not be an everyday thing where I see you every day, but if I see you passing by, like, hey, I saw you at the art show, you know, cool stuff. And I think that's cool, to be able to say hi to people in my neighborhood, or be able to say hi to anybody, really. And if they don't say hi back, cool. But just putting myself out there, you know, it's not a big deal, it's a wave, you know, so.
I like that answer. I like that answer a lot, because I think it is a difficult question, and I think defining community could be potentially limiting. I think sometimes community is just a feeling. It's just like go towards what feels good. Go towards the people that feel good. Like, I don't know, like, I think intuition is so valuable when it comes to just about everything we've talked about. And I think it's just, you sense that. People who, when you talk, they hear you. They're not just like staring at you. They're listening, you know, and they're taking in what you're saying. They feel what you're saying. They have a response. They're not just waiting to speak, that kind of thing. And it's, sometimes it's spaces like this that maybe you have like activities or things that you know, just resonate with you. But I think just really trusting yourself and knowing what you need. And it could be a trial and error process. Maybe you go to a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense and is really loud and confusing. But like, you know, okay, well that maybe isn't for me. It doesn't mean it's a bad group of people or a bad place. It's just, maybe that's just not where I needed to be, you know? And yeah.
And to add to that, it's like what you were talking about with, you know, what's a good community, what's a bad community. And so, like, in my mind, any part of any community that you are choosing to be a part of, so you're looking at a group of people and you want to be included in that, or you just naturally are, that's a good community. A bad community would be like, I tore my ACL. I am in a community of people who have torn ACLs. Like, that's not necessarily something that I want to identify with. That's something that I am or that has happened to me. But I don't feel connected to that, you know? So like making sure that I'm supporting the communities that I do connect with, like, from my heart, but not necessarily feeling obligated to participate in the communities that I'm just a part of because of circumstance.
Yeah.
I think the best way to define community is tough. I don't know. I think there is no definition. I think there's like a textbook definition, but I think it depends on the person you're talking to. Because community might be a geographical thing. Or for somebody who's on the internet a lot, that could be their community. A community can be like near East Side or Town Square. It's just, I think the community, and how I define it, is where you're planting your seed in like the non-weird way. But like where you're contributing your, sorry, I gotta liven this up somehow. It's where you contribute your energy to a group of people that you're contributing to, that is a part of your community. And I think that's the best way to define it as vaguely as I can, because I don't think community itself is evil or good. I think it's the people in it can change it, and I think it can really quickly turn. I think you can hear like, you know, Instagram, all of a sudden someone posts something and it's like, oh wow, that community is really bad. And I think that's why I can't say community itself is, I think it's neutral. I think the people in it are good or bad. And so, yeah, community is just one of those things I feel like I'll never be able to define because of it's ever changing with the internet and with people. I don't know, new ideas emerge all the time. Like you see all these conspiracy theories, and there's a conspiracy theory community for that, or there is a community because of location. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a crazy word that has a definition but is defined very oddly.
Yeah.
I hope that helped a little bit. That was like me saying I don't know in a very long, strong way.
I thought you did.
I guess my big struggle has always been trying to find a physical place to fit in, and then realizing that everyone defines their community differently, and that it changes from day to day. Like, I hate talking in front of people, but I knew that doing this would be fun because Amber's a part of my community, and now this room full of strangers is today. So I think the cool thing about it is that everybody has a different definition and that it changes all the time. And as long as you are comfortable or realize that you're uncomfortable, then that's something you didn't know the day before.
Yeah. Which that's,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say a quick thing about comfort, like, because I really think that's kind of tricky, because like this is very uncomfortable for me, like it was stressing me out, but like I'm glad I did it, you know what I mean? Like I think when it comes to community, it is, we help each other push each other out of our comfort zones so that we can learn what we're capable of. So it's like on the one hand, yes, comfort is fundamental, and then on the other hand, discomfort can teach you stuff. So this is a hard question. I mean, I like this question a lot, but it's really hard.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of the community too that you really get to experience. I think one of the ways that I have felt most about a part of the community is when I haven't been at something, and then people from the community either text me or call me and say, hey, where are you? Are you okay? Like, it's not a big deal that you're not here, but they just want an update on my life. And again, sometimes they're not even really close friends, you know, but it's just a community thing of being a part of that. And I think that really allows you to feel, like how you were saying with the internet, you can really feel a part of something and not necessarily have people right around you, not in a physical way. So it's cool to live in a society where that is possible. But that can be a dark hole too.
Yeah.
That could, you know, feeling like you have community, but then also feeling very isolated because you're not necessarily around people. We don't have to go down that road.
That's a good point.
But it can. There's always, of course, two sides to every coin. I mean, so.
Yeah.
Me know.
Did it? Okay. I hope it.
I mean, I wasn't necessarily looking for any.
And yeah.
Don't you want to hear?
Can you grade us now?
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Should we all just stare at each other? It's yeah.
We made it.
We did it. Thank you for coming, guys.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Thank you. That's great. There should be like.
Yeah. because it is crazy.
I don't know if it's- I know.